All right, everybody, hello. It looks like we are live. We're back after a day off yesterday. There we go. It says we're streaming. How are you doing, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Olivia Reiner, and I'm here with Tom Silverstein for Packers News in the Packers visiting locker room. The Packers visiting locker room to talk with you guys a little bit about today's practice, looking ahead to this weekend's game against the Seattle Seahawks. Lots to discuss, as always. We're always happy to hang out with you guys. Tom, the people haven't seen you in a while. What's going on with you?
No, I went into hiding during the bye week. I needed the rest. I needed to hibernate a little bit. So now I'm back. I'm ready. I'm ready to roll.
We're happy to have you back.
You just hit me with whatever you got.
All right, guys.
Ready.
Don't take it easy on Spoon.
Nope.
Send him the hard-hitting questions over on Facebook in the chat. I will get to that momentarily.
Just don't remind me and prod me about my 7-9 prediction, okay?
I already did it, so just kidding. No. We'll save that conversation for another time.
Okay.
How's that? All right, guys. First, as always, we like to discuss the injury report before we get into some of your questions. So why don't we start with that, Spoon? So the only two notable things on the injury report were Kenny Clark being out with a back injury. He did not participate. That's kind of interesting considering, gosh, he's been popping up on the injury report throughout the season with a bunch of different issues, shin, calf, just to name a few.
He
ankle.
plays nose tackle, so
yes,
those guys get knocked around quite a bit.
But now it's a back injury. Last time he was listed on the injury report with a back injury was Week 7, leading up to the game against Oakland. What is this back injury about? When do Packers fans start getting concerned about Clark's status for the game on Sunday?
Not till you find out that he hasn't practiced all week. I mean, I think back injuries happen. Guys get back spasms. That said, we saw it happen with Corey Linsley. He had been battling a back injury for weeks, and it just finally, he couldn't started out the game and it just locked up on him. So you really don't know, and since they don't really tell us much, I don't remember seeing Kenny Clark in the locker room, which was unusual. He's almost always there. So he was probably getting treatment. They maybe just be something they're trying to calm down, or it could be more serious. But back injuries are never anything to ignore.
Sure. Something to certainly keep an eye on, and we'll keep you updated throughout the week if we do see him return to practice anytime soon. Why don't we talk about Dexter Williams next, who is out with an illness? I'm assuming this is the same illness that some other guys have succumbed to. Most recently, Elton Jenkins, he did return to practice today, and I was catching up with him in the locker room, and he said, yes, it was the flu. So that's what's going around. Guys have had it. It just kind of is what it is.
Flu shots? What the heck?
I suppose they're not keeping up on their flu shots. My mom, once it started to get a little chilly out, she was like, did you get your flu shot?
Yeah.
Checking up with me.
Yeah, of course, there's a difference between the flu and a virus, that is like a 2-day thing. Flu can be really serious. So I don't know if he really had the flu or whatever, but those things can spread. And I think based on the injury report, it's not an epidemic. They don't have to take a separate bus to the game on Sunday. Like, didn't the Patriots fly like a separate plane with guys who were sick? Yeah, I think that it was the Patriots because they didn't want to infect everybody else, and they were treating those guys and getting them ready for the game, hopefully that they could play. So I don't think it's at that point. I'm not starting anything. I don't think they really have much of anything going on.
All right. Well, that's good news for the team. So we'll keep you updated there, but Williams is the latest there. And then besides that, there were a handful of veteran rest guys. The limited guys were Danny Vitale with the knee, Preston Smith with an ankle, and Billy Turner with an ankle. So that's, the lingering things that they've been dealing with, but good to see that they're
Preston Smith,
limited.
the first time he's missed any kind of practice was during the bye week. Now, I don't know if he would have missed practice if it weren't a bye week, but between him and Zadarius Smith and Adrian Amos, I think the combined number, I did a story on this, I think the combined number of days of practice they missed was 2, which is phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
For, Packers paid them good money, and they've come through every single day just about.
Yes, and not to mention Brian Balaga back to practice after dealing with a concussion sustained in the game, Week 17 versus the Detroit Lions. So, again, more progress. Good to see that he's feeling okay.
Corey Linsley back practicing. I don't even think he was limited, was he?
I can tell you right now. How's that?
If he was even on the report, I don't
He
remember.
was a full participant.
Yeah, so that's pretty remarkable because he was in bad shape after the Lions game. So, yeah, they seem to be doing pretty well. Jamal Williams, a full participant.
Yes.
With the shoulder.
So all good stuff there. Guys, let's head on over to Facebook right now. Please, hello everyone. Leave your questions. We're happy to chat with you guys. Let's see what we got here. We've got Coach saying that they hope that the Packers are good and healthy heading into the Sunday game. Spoon, you wrote about this a little bit in your column about how health is not necessarily a total coincidence. There's certainly some luck involved with the team being as healthy as the Packers are. But what really are those factors that go into it?
Well, I think, the factors are how you practice, luck. I still think luck is more than 50% of the percentage of who gets hurt. But I also think that Brian Gutekunst made a concerted effort to avoid guys with injury histories. And if you look at Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, they played in almost every game. I mean, I think in 4 years, Adrian Amos missed 6 games. Preston Smith missed no games. Zadarius Smith missed like 5 games, and that's out of like 64 or 65 games. Billy Turner had made it through 18 games. Then, Darnell Savage, his first-round pick, had played in 49 games in 4 years. Even Rashawn Gary, who had a torn labrum, only missed 3 games and played in every other game at Michigan. So he's clearly not taking injury risks like Ted Thompson had done with some guys like Kevin King and some other guys. And so, they've been fortunate. I don't think they'll have a season like this next year, but they're doing what you have to do when you have a healthy year, take advantage of it, I mean, they're making it to this round and maybe all the way to the NFC Championship, and then you see.
Yeah, for the fact that all of their starters, maybe if you count Lane Taylor as a starter from the beginning of the season and Elton Jenkins is where he is now, besides that, to have all of their starters be what they are,
unbelievable.
When you look over on the Seattle side, it's not the same story whatsoever.
Seattle's got 4 starters, I think, on injured reserve, and then take a look at San Francisco, and their numbers are incredible. How many injuries they've had. Now they've been able to get a lot of guys back for the end of the season, but the number of guys who've been missing. Minnesota is an extremely healthy team. They are just like the Packers. I would say their numbers, they've had more guys miss, but their starters, all good, pretty much all good. So, by that measure, it should be Packers, Vikings in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I've got a question from Duran. He wants to know, between the Vikings or the 49ers, who would win that game if the Packers were to win Sunday? One of those 2 teams would obviously be the ones, but the Vikings, as healthy as they are, to go out and play in Santa Clara, that's not an easy place to win.
I've just been total San Francisco. I believe in them. I think they're the best team, the most talent, great coach. And then, I had this sneaking feeling about Minnesota at New Orleans and playing in a dome, and I thought, they could pull that off, but I went with the Saints, and now I'm starting to think the Vikings are a pretty darn good team, and I wouldn't rule them out, at least being competitive there and maybe winning. That would be really interesting to see Packers and Vikings in the NFC Championship game.
We're getting way ahead of
ourselves.
Yeah,
we are. But we don't even know Green Bay's going to win.
That being said, if the Packers were to see the Vikings for a 3rd time this season, what is the likelihood of the Packers being able to beat a team for the third time in a single
tough.
season.
It's tough. It's happened. I believe the Packers did it. Oh boy, I'm going to have to. It's there. I just can't remember who it was, but it does happen. But it's tough. It's really tough. So we'll see. Yeah, we got to get through this one. You're right. No sense in looking that far ahead.
You'll dig up that little factoid.
Yeah, I'll let you know all about that
around.
on
Sure.
Sunday night if it matters.
Sure. Nick wants to know, what is the Packers' biggest concern regarding Seattle's receiving core? What does DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, what do those guys bring to the Seattle's offense?
Speed, and speed. You know, they have the ability to run down the middle of the field, and if someone, you know, if Darnell Savage or Adrian Amos bite on something they shouldn't, these guys will run right by them and they won't be able to recover. We saw it in the Philadelphia game. DK Metcalf had this play where Philadelphia blew a coverage, and it's over because if one guy falls behind with that guy, no one's catching up to him. And so they're very dangerous. Tyler Lockett is too. I think the key is the Packers have to put a ton of pressure on Russell Wilson, and they can. You know, they have to take advantage of the weakness of the Seahawks offensive line.
So on the back end, when you look at the secondary, what might Pittman do to approach Seattle's receiving core just purely from a defensive back standpoint?
Well, you know, the obvious move would be to put Kevin King on DK Metcalf because of his height. If Tyler Lockett wasn't on that other side, I'd think about putting Jair Alexander on DK Metcalf because he's just, the size disparity isn't good, but Jair Alexander competes, and you know he's got that little guy Napoleon kind of complex. He is going to be, you know, fight to the end and battle a guy like that. You could put Jair Alexander there. You could put Tramon Williams on Lockett and then have King be sort of a nickel guy. But I think they'll wind up putting King on him.
All right, something to keep an eye on Sunday. Michael wants to know, how is Seattle against the run?
Well, so in the Philadelphia game, they just sold out. They said, Philadelphia, your receivers can't beat us. We're going to stop your running game. And they did. They shut it down. But they had to, you know, bring a safety up, an extra defender in the box. And they weren't able to play their base defense because Michael Kendricks, who's one of their really valuable linebackers, they had a great linebacker core with Michael Kendricks, Bobby Wagner, and God dang it. Anyway, I'm spazzing on the other linebacker. They went with a nickel, and they just stopped the run. They just did a great job stopping the run, and I think they will go after Aaron Jones more than they will Aaron Rodgers. I think they will try to stop the run first.
So that's obviously not a novel strategy for the teams that the Packers have faced. They know that Aaron Jones is the entirety, most of the Packers' offense. How can the Packers address that and work around it?
Well, it's going to be, if they had their tight end, if they had some really good tight ends, they could really do some damage. And I think they will give Jimmy Graham a chance, Tanyan a chance. If Seattle brings that safety up and plays their typical three deep zone, then you'll see them try to run some crossing routes and corner routes with their tight ends. But I'm just really curious to see what Pete Carroll does because, you know, he knows he has to worry about Aaron Rodgers getting out of the pocket, but he sure talked about Aaron Jones a lot today, like, you know, that he's been the key to the Packers offense. So if they do stop Aaron Jones, then, you know, onus is on Aaron Rodgers to figure out how to beat some man coverage. If they load up to stop Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams will have about 15 catches is my prediction.
Mm-hmm. When Aaron Jones is covered or double covered or something along those lines, somebody else is going to get open.
Yeah, and if Devontae Adams is getting some type of single coverage, even if there's a guy over the top, they're going to throw it to him. So you can expect that.
All right, another thing to keep an eye on. We've got some injury-related questions. Zach wants to know if there's any update on the open roster spot on the 53-man roster. We're all sort of assuming that it's for Raven Green, who has been designated to return. He's back at practice. He's been practicing, but he technically has not been activated off of IR. Could we see that happen this week?
I think so. I think that'll be the move. It could be Greg Roberts. They've been practicing him, but my guess is that, no, that'll be Raven Green, and he'll play on special teams. That'll be his role. If for some reason something happened to Ibrahim Campbell, they could play him. But I think Green is a really good special teams player, and anytime you can add someone like that, you do.
So how much time do they have both with Green and with Roberts to make a decision on those
Saturday
respectively?
night. They can wait till Saturday. I think before 3 o'clock or something like that on Saturday, they can activate him. So we might not know till then. But I'd be shocked if it were anybody other than Raven Green.
Sure. And how many weeks has Greg Roberts been practicing?
Seems like it's been a full 3, and I didn't go to practice today. Do you recall if he was practicing?
Yeah, he was practicing.
He was practicing?
Yeah.
I thought the window was 3 weeks, but maybe because they had a bye, that didn't count. So this is probably his last week of practicing, and then they have to either put him back on PUP or IR, cut him, or activate him. So we'll see.
All right. Interesting stuff. Similarly, so we've got Marcel wants to know if Alan Lazard will be good to go for the game. Jerron wants to know, will Jamal Williams be ready? Both of them were full participants. I believe Lazard had been dealing with an ankle injury, Jamal Williams with that shoulder injury, so it seems like they're both practicing and should be fine.
Yeah, Jamal Williams
Friday.
has had a long time to recover from that shoulder. He should be good to go.
Yes.
Lazard will be someone to watch because those ankles can, it undoubtedly will be a little weaker than it was, and that's something you can roll.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about this briefly. Jerron wants to know, Tom, what you think about the Dallas Cowboys hiring Mike McCarthy. Today was his press conference. We got to catch a little bit of it on television here at Lambeau Field, which was kind of an interesting feel, hearing Mike McCarthy's voice again in Lambeau Field.
In a much more relaxed setting, cracking jokes. By the end of his tenure here, he wasn't cracking many jokes with us anymore.
No.
I think it's a good hire. What I want to see from McCarthy, and I'm not sure that I'm seeing it, is that he freshen up his coaching staff and stop relying on old faithfuls. I mean, I think he's hiring Joe Philbin to be his offensive line coach. Joe Philbin is a great offensive line coach. That's a good hire. But Mike Nolan's his defensive coordinator. He needs to add some younger guys, some college guys who can add some of the new football to his offense, or at least help him introduce that. And I thought that's what happened here. He got a little bit stale with what he was doing. And it's not that he can't do it. It's not that he doesn't have the mind to do it. But guys get in comfort zones, and they feel comfortable with people they know. And it's the really good coaches who reach out and say, okay, I'm going to take a chance with a guy. And I've heard good things. I've done my research. He could add something to my offense. A really good example of that is Andy Reid. So Andy Reid has got all these speed guys on his team, and he sees these college teams, and they're running all this motion and all this crazy stuff, and so he hires some guys to advise him, college guys who know those systems. And look what happens to his offense. That's what Mike McCarthy needs to do, in my opinion.
The assistant coaches, the coordinators, those hires are very public. We'll hear about them. You'll all hear about them as they happen. But what about some of the front office hires, that maybe the public might not hear about, or that might be lesser known. Well, can that also add to helping freshen up his offense? Or does it have to be at the coaching level?
I think it does have to be at the coaching level. Personnel, I don't know how much of an influence he'll have. I'm sure Jerry Jones will ask him, what kind of receivers do you like? McCarthy likes big receivers. Tight ends, do you need tight ends? He loves tight ends. I think from that standpoint, but in the end, Jerry Jones is going to be the one making those decisions. And so I think the great part for McCarthy is he just has to focus on coaching. And that's what he really wants to do.
All right. Well, guys, lots of interesting things going on, not only in the Packers world, but things tangentially related to the Packers as well.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be fun to see McCarthy, like them play in the preseason, and McCarthy bring his team up here to practice for 3 days before a preseason game?
We discussed this on Monday, Jim and I, because I know you had thrown that idea out there to the world, but Jim did not seem convinced that it would ever happen.
Oh, I think it would be a blast. And Green Bay would just be a buzz.
This place would explode.
Yeah, it would be so much fun. And who knows, if both teams make the playoffs next year, maybe they play.
But would McCarthy want that? Would he want for this place
he would like
to become a zoo?
I'm just saying that he would. Oh, I don't know about that, but I know that I'm sure the competitive side of him, he would love to bring a team up here in the playoffs and win.
Oh, that I'm sure he would relish that.
Yeah.
The preseason playoff training camp competition, I'm thinking more along those lines.
Probably not.
All right.
But, Jerry Jones is going to decide that, So they practice actually their training camp is in California, in Thousand Oaks, California. So odds of them coming here are probably pretty low.
Stay out there in California.
Yeah.
That sounds
But
nice.
I would love to see it. I would love to see them practice together and watch the fun between McCarthy and the Cowboys defense and Aaron Rodgers, and it'd just be great. Lots of stories.
Well, you might have to save that one for your dreams because it may not happen in reality.
Yes, nobody ever listens to me.
Take it up with Mark Murphy.
Yeah, I'll call up Goodell tomorrow.
All right, guys, that's going to end it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow and on Friday to take some more questions. So if we didn't get to you today, make sure to come back and we'll try to get to you another time. Make sure you're also checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers news. Follow us on social media so you can get lots of updates as we get closer and closer to the game on Sunday. We will be there, of course, so always make sure you come hang out with us.
Live blog.
Before and after the game and during the game with Tom. But we do a live stream before and after the game on Sunday, and as always, Tom will be doing his live blog, which is always a very fun time.
Come join us. Yes, it's fun. It is fun.
All right, guys.